Hi everyone, it's Nichol Spohr here today for Hero Arts with the My Monthly Hero No Line Coloring Showcase. These cards feature not only the main kit, but the add-ons as well. Using just a few of the add-ons with my cards today. All of my cards feature no line coloring and different images completely from one another, so hopefully it gives you a good idea of how different images look with no line coloring. No line coloring is one of my favorite things to do, especially with the Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. We are going to start with the main kit only card. This features the beautiful Mother Earth feeling type of image, the earth, some extra little birds and things, and lots of no line coloring. I am not going to lie to you, this was a massive undertaking. This is a big image, or very, I guess I shouldn't say big, a detailed image. So this took quite a bit of coloring. I probably worked on the coloring portion of this for a good hour and a half to 2 hours, but this card is mainly just coloring. I will tell you, if I had stamped this with a traditional black outline ink and colored it, probably would have only taken 45 minutes to an hour, I would say. With the no line coloring, it's a little trickier just because you're needing to define those lines, but you're also coloring things in. I love this technique, but it will take a little bit more if you're doing a detailed image. Plus, look at all those little teeny tiny flowers and all the things. But I hope that you agree with me when I say it was worth it. I think this kit especially is maybe a stretch for me, and I think that I say that in a good way. This is not something that I normally would be drawn to. However, this ended up being one of my favorite kits. It really did. Pardon me. Once I got started with this, I was in love. I love all the different options for what she can hold. You could actually do lots of different kind of I say earth shapes, circle shapes. There's the earth as I used here, but then there's a circle, and you can use, I'll give you a quick idea of that. There's sentiments that I am going to use one of those to fit the shape. There's also a circle, and inside that you could fit the sentiments, you could fit some fish, you could fit a peace sign that also has some flowers and leafy things, a tree, kind of like the tree of life kind of thing. I love that one. I'm hoping to do a card with that as well. There's some hands that are separate from this that you could use to hold a globe or a circular shape, and then lots of sentiments, and then lots of small individual images like flowers and birds, a butterfly, all these cute little things that go with this. So really just another exceptional kit from Hero Arts, and I love that it's something out of the norm. I love that it's not something that you might see every day. Across the bottom of the screen, I am listing the colors I'm using. I have sped the video up quite a bit. This is a long video again. I've had several of these lately, and I'm really trying to limit that. However, most of the long videos have multiple projects, and I feel like I should leave in the coloring and things, as most of you enjoy that portion of it and like seeing how it all comes together. So I have sped it up to save a little time. Skin, this was the beige marker, the flesh color, the blender, and then a little, I believe it was tea rose. I missed that when it went across the bottom of the screen. A little pink, a little shadow mauve for the eyes, just for the eyelids to give them a little bit of a blue color. And then her hair, while very similar, not the same color. That's mustard and a blender for a beautiful blonde. I was going for very light in color. So everything here is going to go work with earth tones really well, I would say, but super light. So for her dress and the flowers, we've got tea rose, pink flamingo, light carmine, and a blender, or the blender for the dress. That's going to only be tea rose and pink flamingo and a blender to make it a little bit lighter than the flowers, but still along the same basic color family. And then the leaves are all mid-green and olive green. I did not go for my normal kind of more bright and vibrant, which I tend to do a lot. I went for soft and pretty and a little bit more of that natural tone, I guess I would say. For the earth, we are going to use cobalt blue, light blue, and a blender. I'm keeping this simple. I knew I wanted to stamp over the center of the globe with my sentiment. That's going to be the perfect spot for it on my card. And so it's just really the base for it. Not only is it part of the imagery on the card, but it's also a great place to house the sentiment. I skipped around a lot too. I was working quickly, but as quick as you can with an image like this, but I skipped around just whatever kind of struck my fancy, I suppose. So the stag here, or the deer, this is mid-brown, beige, and a blender, and then beige and a blender for the antlers. I tried to hit a lot of the bigger areas first, and I was also doing my best, with the exception of butterflies and the fish, to kind of work from the top to the bottom to not miss anything. It's very detailed, and so one of my little tips for working with a detailed image like this is to work top to bottom, or side to side, whatever, however is best for you, but to work kind of in order to help kind of make sure you're not missing any little leaves. In fact, I missed the fish. I die cut this image and I was like, oh, whoops. And I had to go back and add color to that. Luckily it's small and it was easy to do, but it does happen. And then just going and adding color to flowers and leaves, all of the little things here. The inside of the deer's ear. And then I did take a black pen and add detail. And I forgot to mention to the face of Mother Earth and the face of the deer. I felt like that was really important. The birds also, their feet, the eyes, they're all going to be detailed with a black fine tip pen, because I think faces are one of those things you do not want to not have the detail for. So while we didn't stamp the image with a black pen, I felt it was important to go back in and add that detail later. The cloud is a little shadow mauve in a blender, very light. I only added color basically to the stamped outline and then blended that color out just a tiny little bit. The branches coming down, or not the branches, the roots, kind of roots, branches, whatever you want to call them, coming down from the bottom of the image. This is the beige and blender, or it might be beige and flesh color. I used whatever was out on my desk. Instead of pulling out additional markers, I just used what I had already out. We're going to go back with tea rose and pink flamingo for these flowers. Make sure we hit all of those flowers down here in the leaves. Also, any of those little leaves at the tips of the roots or the branches. I don't know exactly what they are, but we want to make sure we get all of those. And then our dress kind of comes to that beautiful flowing end, and we want to just continue I followed the lines of her dress, and here I did go in with a little darker color in places, and then we'll blend out with the lighter marker. We just want to finish that off strong, so I traced the stamp lines with my darkest marker and then blended that out. This was also a good chance to see if there was anything else I was missing. There is that little bird there. We'll color him when we color the other two birds, the individual birds, and then we're just blending it all out. We'll take our colorless blender and blend then. But soft and pretty was the name of the game with this beautiful dress she's wearing. And then there's all those little pieces coming off. Most of those were colored super light. The butterflies are going to be bright yellow and pale yellow, even a blender maybe here and there. I kept those consistent just for ease, and I didn't really want to introduce a whole lot of other color to this design. I really wanted it to be kind of these soft peachy pinks, and then the blue and greens of the earth and the naturals of pretty much everything else. So just to help keep with the color palette I chose, I kind of kept that consistent. So it's just a tiny little pop of color, but I like yellow with the peachy pink like that. Then we're going to just use the lighter green, the olive green, with a blender for the land areas on the globe. Little bright yellow for the beaks on the birds, and then I did just go in with mid-brown and beige to add color to my birds. So they're just going to be very dark brown. I pulled a lot more of the brown into these than I did with the Stag, and that was on purpose to just make them a little bit deeper and darker. In fact, I think I might have used mustard, not beige, with the birds. There is no right or wrong here. I simply picked a color that was going to blend and went with it. And then we're going to do all 3 of these and die cut all of the images, which there's just 4 for this. We're going to die cut those with the coordinating dies from the December 2019 main kit. For my background, I wanted to offset these colors with probably my favorite background color of all time, which is aqua. And the Pool Party Reactive Ink from Hero Arts is my favorite. I love the color. We're going to take a regular smooth white piece of cardstock trimmed to A2 size, so that's going to be 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, and we are going to ink up our background with this, kind of going darker at the bottom and lighter at the top for an ombre effect. I originally thought I would use sentiments from the Beautiful World stamp set. I thought I would just use the world as is, and I opted, after I laid all the die cuts out on my background, not to use those. So you will see those in a project on the Hero Arts blog later this week. This is also obviously where I realized I forgot to color in my fish. So I need to do that very quickly as well. And I started to do pink, and I decided I better do yellow because I wanted it to stand out a little bit more. For my background, I decided to add a little distressing with the Iridescent Shimmer. I love the Iridescent Shimmer, so we're going to spritz the background. This is reactive ink, so it will react with the water. And then I splattered some white liquid watercolor over that as well and let it completely air dry. I have put foam adhesive all over the back of Mother Earth, and I'm going to put her pretty much in the center of the card there. We are going to put foam adhesive on the back of the Earth, but we need to stamp it with our sentiment first. And I thought no better sentiment from the main kit than "You Mean the World to Me" would work for this beautiful design, so I went ahead and stamped that right there in the center with clear embossing ink and heat embossed with white embossing powder. The white really ties into the white outline of the die cut images and the white splatter on the background of the card. We will heat set that and then pop up the Earth in her arm with foam adhesive. And that is basically it. We will add the birds to the design with foam adhesive as well, but I did nothing else to this card. The main image there takes up most of the room, and I really wanted her to stand on her own. Just a little inking and distressing of the background adds the perfect little touch and really sets off this gorgeous, gorgeous image. I like a little foam adhesive as it helps set the images apart from the background. Let's move the Misty out of the way to finish adding these, and then we will of course adhere this panel to a white top fold card base to finish the design. For my second card design today, I'm going to use the Stag from the awesome Staggering Branches stamp set. And I am stamping the images again with a no-line ink on Bristol Smooth cardstock. The branches don't match, I will tell you that, and I really kind of like that about this. I am stamping this along the bottom edge and having the branches come out. This is a complete one-layer card. I love one-layer cards. I don't do near enough of them, but I absolutely love them. I love finding ways of creating dimension without having lots of layers. And we're just going to add some butterflies. There's 2 butterflies in the Staggering Branches stamp set, and then I'm taking the last one, this little one I'm positioning here, from the main kit. So I have a trio. I like odd numbers of embellishments, and they're all fluttering around the branches, that the branch antlers that are coming out of this beautiful stag image. Before I get any further and start my coloring, which is really all that'll be left of this particular card design, I'm going to stamp the sentiment from the set with my favorite embossing ink, the Embossing and Watermark ink from Hero Arts, and we will heat set this with Hero Arts gold embossing powder. The gold really works nice, I think, with this particular design. I didn't do black of any sort on any 3 of my cards today. With the no line coloring, I really like to keep away from black. I will add some black detail for eyes and the butterfly bodies and things. And like on the last card, eye detail, nose detail, and things like that. But other than that, I really like to just kind of keep away from that. I think it adds to the soft, pretty feel. We're going to use dark brown, mid brown, and oatmeal for our stag. And I'm going to start kind of at the bottom and work my way up, which is not normally what I do, but I did today. I really felt like I needed to start here and build the stag, and then we'll build the branches. We're going to do this in little steps. I'm kind of tracing out the stag with my darkest marker. This is the mid brown. The dark brown was only used for the nose. Mid brown is going to be the darkest color I use for the stag, and then we're going to blend out with oatmeal, keeping away from the insides of the ears and the eyes. The eyes are going to be super important here because the eye detail is so gorgeous on this image. I felt it was important to make it pop, and we're going to color the eyes in with green markers when we do the leaves. I wanted to tie some of that greenery into the eyes here, and we'll draw in eyelashes. I'm going to kind of even trace out the eye right now. Make sure get the pupil, the eyelid, really, really important. Just taking a fine tip pen and tracing that out. And then for the insides of the ear, we're going to pull out a little oatmeal color and blend in pink haze for that. And once we have the eyes, we are ready to move on to the branches. This is beige and medium beige. I'm going to do both branches. They are super detailed. Much like the first card that we created, there's a lot of detail here. And so when I get to coloring in the leaves for my branches, I'm going to keep my beige marker out, because there are going to definitely be little spots where I miss a teeny tiny little branch. So I want to make sure I just have that so I can fill it in really quickly. This does seem like it might be, it is a lot of coloring, but time consuming. But really, if you break it down into stations where, like, I started with the deer, then I did the branches, then I did all the leaves, then all the flowers, then the butterflies. This card didn't take very long. Start to finish, I think 30 minutes, even with stamping and coloring, really fast. I had an audiobook on and I just sat and colored. Super quick. You can see I approached it assembly line style, assembly line coloring, I guess you want to call it, and just added all of the little detail. You can start to see it take shape. I love this. I love how cool it is. And I should also mention there's some traditional antlers available in this set as well. So you can really customize this image however you want, which I really love. So now we're ready for our leaves with olive green and mid green. Adding all of that beautiful detailing and color in. Tracing them all out with my darker green color, and then I'll just go back in and add in the lighter color. This is another example of starting in one area and kind of just working your way up and out or down and out, however you want to do it, so that you don't miss any leaves. And you will see me occasionally grab my beige marker and draw in a little bit of a branch where I realize I have missed something, because as I mentioned, it will happen. With this no line coloring, that just tends to happen. We're going to take our greens then and color in the greens of the eyes. Since we have our green markers out already, we will add that color in, and just look how much that makes that beautiful face pop. This card's super simple, but I really love it. I knew when I pulled this out of the box, I wanted to use this image because I think it's just stunning. I'm going to zoom in a little closer. Hopefully you can see the coloring detail just a bit better. Again, just coloring in all the leaves here on the second branch, adding in branch detail where I've missed it, avoiding all of the little flowers. I for sure had a theme going with my cards, at least the first two. The last one's a little bit different as far as the colors I chose, but the first two both have that peachy pink color for flowers. I love this. Kind of reminds me of cherry blossoms, which I have done some cards with cherry blossoms fairly recently, and I love the colors. And so I just went ahead and stuck with that because I think they're so pretty. And that's light carmine for any of the darker colors, and then pink flamingo and tea rose for the others. And I think it's not fun to note this because I often stick to a lot of the same color combinations for when I color with the zig markers. I think we all do that no matter our coloring medium. This is a little bit of a departure for me because I don't use these colors all that often, but I have used them for flowers here recently quite a bit, and I just like that. So play around with your marker color combinations because you never know when you will come across one that you totally love. We're going to draw in the bodies and antenna of the butterflies with a black pen now, and then we will color in the butterflies. My first one is light carmine and pink haze. So not the same color combination as the flowers, which I think if you look close enough and when I get all three butterflies colored, you'll notice. And then the other two butterflies will be bright yellow and orange and pale orange. I, again, did not want to really go too far outside of this particular color scheme and introduce anything else to this. I really wanted to keep it soft, kind of more in the pink, orange, yellow color family. No blues or anything like that for this card, even though blue is always my favorite. We're going to keep the background a nice crisp white and really let these images take center stage. For my last card, we are going to be using the Carry the World stamp set. There are coordinating dies for this, and we are going to be creating an ocean scene. You guys, if you follow me, know that I love creating underwater ocean scenes, and this is no different. We're going to take Splash and Blue Hawaii Reactive Inks and just really color in, ink blend a panel here. And then we are going to take a background stamp from Hero Arts, the Ocean Waves bold print, and we are going to stamp a little bit of texture to our background before we add our distressing. Now, the blending wasn't going very well, and I just have to say, I think I ruined one of my brushes, which I'm really, really sad about. Because when I started using my dark blue brush, it works really good. And I knew this. I keep trying to use that light blue brush, but I had used it for something else a lot, and I really think I messed it up. So I just grabbed another brush that I use for blues, and I had much, much better luck with that one. So, you know, it happens. We're going to keep it light to dark, and I'm going to work until I get a nice seamless blend here. Love that these react with water, because once we stamp that Ocean Waves bold print over the background, we're going to do a little distressing again with the iridescent white shimmer and the white liquid watercolor, just like we did for the first card. But for this one, it kind of creates that illusion of bubbles. I'm placing my background in the Misty. We're going to stamp it with Blue Hawaii along the bottom and splash along the top for that texture. I hope you can see that texture. It looks like maybe you can in the video. Love this. It's so pretty, subtle, but really effective. Spritzed with a little of that iridescent shimmer, blotted dry, taking a little white liquid watercolor and a small paintbrush and splattering the background. We can set this aside then to completely air dry while we work on coloring in our remaining images. So I definitely had a theme here, the earth theme. I love that the turtle shell looks like a globe. And so we're going to go ahead and stick with that. We're going to color in the water and the greenery first. Then we'll color in the turtle. We'll color in the small turtle. You might notice that the little guy looks like a moon, or looks like the moon, I think. His turtle shell, or the underbelly of him. At least that's kind of how I went with it, because I thought it would be really cute to kind of go with that theme. And then we'll do some seaweed and some starfish, stamp and emboss a sentiment, and add some additional bubbles with crystal lacquer, which is one of my favorite Hero Arts products. Just if you want to add some nice shine to things or add bubbles or whatever, it is a great product for that. For the shell, I used blue, cobalt blue, and light blue. For the land masses, we're going to use mid green and olive green, just like we did for the leaves in the last card. For the first card, I think I only used olive green in a blender to make it a little lighter. But this one I'm going to go a little bit darker. For the turtle, I am going to use my mid-green marker. I think my mid-green, I want to say the right one. Yes, I'm going to use the mid-green with pale dawn, or olive green, I'm sorry, with pale dawn gray. That's going to give a little bit different color combination while still being really similar. So I'm going to trace out, add all the detail with olive green, and then that pale dawn gray, I know the name is misleading, but I think it works really nice with olive green. I use it a lot as a blender for this. It's going to blend out nice and soft. And anywhere that I feel like needs a little more color, I can go back in and add additional color here in a bit. So just add in a little bit extra, blend that out. We'll move on to our next images then. Using a little green and light green for the seaweed. I did stamp this 3 times and color it 3 times, 2 times mostly with the green, the last time mostly with light green for a little bit of a difference. I felt like I needed more along the bottom edge of my card when I got to that point. Plus I stamped and colored and die cut the smaller starfish twice, so I'd have an odd number of those for my card as well. This is bright yellow and pale yellow. Then we'll color in our little guy. Again, olive green, pale dawn gray, and then mid gray and warm gray too for his kind of quote unquote shell and the moon part of his body. We will die cut these with the coordinating dies, and then I'm going to adhere them with foam adhesive like I did for the first card for that depth and dimension to our inked, stamped, and distressed background. Before we get to that part of the card, I do want to stamp and emboss my sentiment from the Carry the World stamp set. I like to stamp the sentiment first so I don't have embossing powder sticking to anything. So we're going to just put this in a MISTI, stamp the sentiment. I did choose You Carry the World. I definitely picked that one as it tied into the turtle shell, I thought. We're going to stamp with the Embossing and Watermark ink, heat emboss with white embossing powder. I like to use the powder tool first. My background has dried while I worked on coloring in these images. These were much quicker to color. This card did not take very long as well. A lot of the same colors and not as much detail as that first card. Hero Arts White Fine Detail Embossing Powder. We're going to heat set that, and then we are going to put the whole thing together and take a look back at all 3 of the cards I've created with the December 2019 My Monthly Hero main kit and some of the add-ons. Little foam adhesive. We're going to start with our big guy, definitely the focal point. We'll add our little guy down here. We're going to adhere the seaweed with foam adhesive, the large starfish with foam adhesive, and then the 2 smaller starfish are going to be glued directly to the background. And we'll finish with some crystal lacquer bubbles coming up from our turtles. You want to give that plenty of time to dry, but it gives just such a great fun effect. I really love it. Let's glue our starfish and then I'll place those bubbles. Also, anything hanging off the edge, the bottom edge of the card, I'm going to trim away with some scissors. We'll glue this to a white top fold card base. And this bottle of crystal lacquer has seen better days. It was pretty much empty. So I'm going to grab my other one. Hold on real quick while I grab that. And we'll just add those little bubbles. Clear droplets glued in place would also work here. Or glossy accents, or even a Nouveau crystal drop if you wanted to. We've got those 3 up there, and then we'll do a couple down here by the little guy. Here is a look back at all 3 of the cards. Here's the turtle card we just finished, of course the Mother Earth card, and then finally the stag. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for these 3 cards featuring the December 2019 My Monthly Hero card kit and add-ons. The supplies I used to create my cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring Hero Arts stamps and dies that you might be interested in. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel so you never miss a new card making or paper crafting video. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll catch you next time.